Hey folks, and welcome to the neighborhood. Today we are in the neighborhood of Fisher Park in Greensboro, North Carolina. It is just within spitting distance of downtown. The homes are historic, the trees are old, and this one in particular is stunning. Come in and take a look with me. We are on Magnolia Street in Greensboro, North Carolina today. This is a bungalow, but this is not a meager bungalow. This one is a gem. And I think back to fourth grade, singing the song, "Build me a bungalow big enough for two, big enough for two, my honey, big enough for two." This one's big enough for two or three or four. I'm going to spend a good amount of time outside. Notice this bungalow has a cornered roof. I don't think that's the actual word. I'll have to look up my notes. If we could look at it from the top, though, you have a gable end that goes that way. You have another gable end that intersects. Maybe that's what it's called, an intersected roof. And then you have that shed dormer coming off the front. Notice the exposed rafter tails. Notice those brackets that are probably decorative, but they look like they are supporting and holding up the roof. Notice these enormous piers built out of brick that come up right out of the ground, and they support the front porch as well as a very spacious balcony over that porch. And we are in the south. You notice that light blue of the porch ceiling. That, again, we saw that last week. That is a haint blue. This bungalow comes from 1918, and bungalows in America were built prolifically. I don't know if that's a word either. Prolifically, though. Across America between 1905 and 1920. Bungalows with this particular shape, with that intersected roof line I mentioned, make up about a quarter of all the bungalows made in America during that time. You notice those rafters also. This home has gutters attached to the fronts of them, but they have been cut into some decorative shapes along the way. You also notice the differences in materiality on this house. We do have brick. It has been painted. We have clapboards. We also have shingles, wooden shingles, sometimes called shakes. Wooden front porch. And what a beauty! What a beauty! The irises are blooming. The rhododendrons are blooming. The roses are blooming. As you enter through the front gate, you have these two semicircular paths that go on either side of the front door. Over there is your parking. I will make one criticism. I don't love the front fencing. This cast iron work just doesn't seem to fit for me. When I think of American Craftsman style, I think of brick, stone, stucco, wood. I will also point out this house has most of its woodwork painted. And I think original craftsmen wanted to show off, that's where the name comes from, the handiwork of the craftsman who built it. One more thing before I head inside. You'll notice that little balustrade across the front of the balcony. It is not tall. And if you're building a new house, remember what I said last week, you cannot build a new house that is truly as good as an old house. That little balustrade, if we were to build that today, some little guy named Larry would come along and say, "You got to build that up to code," and he would want that thing to be 36 inches tall or so. And I can tell you right now, that one is not. And it's because it was built to much more classical standards of building and not to some sort of state or federal building code. And I'm all for that. Also notice the windows. Do you see those beautiful windows? Not a vinyl window in sight. And I love that. It's such character. Remember, the eyes are the, the windows are the eyes of the home. Let's go inside and see what there is to see. Last week's home was unfurnished. It had a few things in it, This one's much more furnished, and they are trying to show a modern, contemporary approach to living in this home. Like I said, from 1918, original woodwork is intact, floors intact, and beautiful. Tall baseboards, wide door and window casements. We do see modern builders trying to do that. I think it's done better here. Notice that it doesn't necessarily grab your attention. It's just there, classy, quiet. I do wonder about these two columns. They are solid wood or hollow wood, but I just wonder if they were original, because I don't think a whole lot of American Craftsman homes used those sorts of columns. I mentioned the word pier earlier. Outside we had those brick piers. Do you know the difference between a pier and a column? A column is round and a pier is square. Beautiful entryway into the dining area. Large bank of windows on one side. French doors that lead out. I got to point out the windows here. One thing that modern home design does not do. This is I would call this a faux pas. These windows, being original to the home, would have window weights in between the frame of each window. And so that thick, wide part in between is where window weights hang inside. When you're trying to build a new home, if you want it to look older, you need to put a wider piece, and this is a solid 5 or 6 inches in between those windows, and it hints toward those original window weights, even though most people don't use window weights nowadays. It's a nice little butler door. Who doesn't love that? Oh, it even makes a little sound. Enter into your kitchen. All modernized, all up to date. It is a sort of galley. I guess we would call it a galley kitchen. It has that side exit that we just used. It goes straight into the living area. And it has its own dine-in area. You're at the back doors. There's a very small courtyard sitting area back there. And through that window, there is a very spacious carport. Back to our starting point. Another thing in line with those columns, I look at that fireplace. I'm not saying it isn't original. I'm just saying it's not as Craftsman in style as I would expect for a 1918 home. Enter this way. They've designed this area as a front home office. Wonderful use of natural sunlight. Off of that, we have what my family would call a den, some sort of more informal lounge, and an attached bath. This could be used entirely differently if you so chose. This could be a bedroom with an ensuite bath. Also, I noticed around the ceiling, picture rails, and these current homeowners have used them. I think that's wise, because these walls are not made of sheetrock and drywall. These are thick, heavy plaster walls, and they're trying to take care of them by using those picture rail clips instead of nails and screws directly into the plaster. Let's head upstairs. I love a little creaky in the staircase. Come upstairs, look at that. I love this. This room screams for a nap. Don't you just love a nap? If you added some screens into the windows, you've got the fan running, you've got the shades pulled a little bit. Here we are in what I would call a sleeping porch in the summertime. To the left, a bathroom. They've wisely used these Hexagon tiles. Don't know if they're original or not, but they definitely fit the period. Nice, sharp, clean, white tile work. Looks like an original cast iron tub. Back to the landing. We have a bedroom. There's your attic access. They have included in this room the laundry area. So I'm not sure exactly how I would use this room for living. I wouldn't want a bed in the room with the washer and dryer. But the room is very spacious, could be used for a variety of purposes. Maybe this is your huge work room, craft room, sewing room, utility room. Here, we're facing the front of the house now. That door does open out onto the balcony I mentioned earlier with the balustrade, one closet, and two closets. Another bedroom. This is the third upstairs bedroom. Tons of natural light. This room also has two closets. One with the shelving, one with the bars and shelving. Fisher Park is the kind of neighborhood where house after house after house, you see a property that has been here 100 years or longer. These homes are loved by their owners. And this is a neighborhood that people do really love living in, I believe. I just spoke to a woman we've never met. Her name is Jennifer. I got out of the truck. I said, "Excuse me, do you live here?" "Yes." She had her little tray and she had her scissors. She was coming out to pick flowers. I said, "Could I ask you a couple of questions? I'm a real estate agent and I do videos on historic old homes." And she said, "Sure, what do you want to know?" And I said, "Well, what do you like about living here?" She said, "I can look out my front door and I see the country." She said, "But I'm also right here in the city. And I hear a little traffic and I hear a train going by and I hear a chainsaw somewhere." I said, "Tell me about your house. What do you love about the house?" She said, "Well, we lived here a number of years and it was my husband's family's before that." And she said, "It's ours." She said, "She's a beautiful old dame. You want to see it?" So she took me inside and I met her husband on the way, who's a photographer. And I thought, this is Greensboro. She took me right in, showed me the whole house. And we talked about another house for sale around the corner and price and that sort of thing. I said, "Well, what's the downside? What's the downside to living in a historic, older home?" By the way, I keep using the word historic. Some people would use the word historic to really mean that it had a historic significance. I think I use it interchangeably with the word old. Either way, I said, "What is the downside?" And she said, "It's expensive. Anytime you need to fix something, it will be expensive." And she gave the example of radiators. She said, we still use radiator heat and we like it, but it's hard to find people who service those. Likewise, she said the roof was expensive, and that was 12 years ago. So she said it would be even more expensive now. At any rate, she spoke very highly of her home, and it was lovely. It's lived in, it's got a great patina to it. Do you know that word? It feels like it's got some living behind it. And I loved that she welcomed me right in. I think I'm going to invite her and her husband to Thursday dinner soon. So, yeah, this is Fisher Park. Friendly people, beautiful, beautiful area, and old homes. Hope you enjoyed this little visit in the neighborhood. Have a great day.